the most important skill is reacting to the variables that they don't control. How to change the way you do stuff in the world in reaction to the environment around you. That's the most important skill for people and organizations.
That was Dan Chuparkoff, the CEO of Reinvention Labs. With an impressive background at some of the most innovative companies in the world, his insights will prepare any association leader for the disruptions of tomorrow.
People are thinking about changes in humongous batches instead of in tiny incremental ones because they don't have the money to spend, they don't have the focus yet. They let them pile up until it's too late, until it's urgent.
He's one of the most sought after keynote speakers in the world when it comes to the intersection of people, teams, and AI.
Innovation is the result of learning new things faster. It's the result of trying new things more frequently.
The future of work isn't on the horizon. It's here, my friends. It is here, and associations need to embrace it. I know that every single day I am reading new articles and I'm seeing updates about what's happening, what's the latest in AI. And sometimes it can seem a little bit overwhelming. You often say that you don't upgrade software, you reinvent how people work. What does that mean in practical terms for teams that are feeling overwhelmed by constant tech changes?
Yeah, I think, first of all, it does feel like we're getting a bunch of new tech changes constantly. There's a huge pile of new tools you have to figure out how to use, and your org charts are changing around, and your expectations are changing, your boss is changing, the economy and the world is changing. All those things are changing all the time. And that can feel overwhelming, but also the changes that are happening don't have to be big, humongous changes. And in fact, they shouldn't, right? You should try little tiny incremental changes. Just dip your toes in the water. Like, think of it like downloading a new app on your phone, right? You don't have to get a whole new phone. You don't have to start talking to Alexa instead of having a phone with a screen. Just get one new app for your phone and try it out. And if you don't like it, delete it and then try a different app. And that's how change should start feeling to you in the world. And if it feels overwhelming, I think you're trying too much of it at once.
So for associations that are just beginning to explore AI and they're just at the start of it, and by the way, association leaders don't feel terrible about this because there's a lot that you're thinking about right now. But if these association leaders, Dan, are just beginning to explore AI, what's a smart first step that doesn't feel overwhelming or overly technical?
Right. Yeah. So the first step of getting started is just get started. Right. So first, try one of the AI tools. Just open it up, go there, ask it a question. The most common AI tool is chatgpt.com, but there's other ones, Gemini from Google or Claude from a company called Anthropic. But if you just go to one of those tools and start asking it a question that maybe you would have gone to a search engine for, you used to go to Google and say, trip to Florida. Now go to ChatGPT and say, I'm going to Florida for 5 days and what should I do there? And just start dipping your toe in the water. Figure out, is it just a new search engine or can it do more than that? And that's the best place to get started.
I gotta tell you, you probably run into misconceptions all the time that when it comes to things like innovation. So what's a common misconception about innovation that holds teams back from real progress?
Yeah, I think the first thing is a lot of people think about innovation as if it's like a new project. It's like we're gonna have a brainstorming meeting and we're gonna figure out how to transform this company. We're gonna put a bunch of ideas on the list and pick the best one, and then we're gonna do the innovation project. Yeah. But actually, innovation is the result that comes out of behavior changes in your organization, right? Innovation is the result of learning new things faster. It's the result of trying new things more frequently, right? It's the result of making decisions more rapidly in a more democratized way. And if you do those three things, if you learn things more rapidly, try things more often, make decisions with more diversity, you will become innovative, right? You can't have an innovation brainstorming meeting. Like, that's one small part of it. But if your behavior doesn't change too, you won't get the thing that you picked in your brainstorming meeting done.
Right. Right. Well, and I think that we have these brainstorming meetings, we end up in them, and it's like, where do we go?
Mm.
What actually helps us to take that next step, to move in that new direction? And there are all kinds of barriers, right? And so, you talked about a couple, as we've already been going through, but
Mm.
what are those barriers? What happens that keeps people from either investing in the change that they need to make, or just taking those next steps?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually, I think there's two challenges, and they kind of go together sometimes.
Yeah.
The first is people are thinking about changes in humongous batches instead of
Mhm.
in tiny incremental ones. Um, and because they're thinking of these changes in huge batches, they let them pile up because they don't have the money to spend. They don't have the focus yet. They let them pile up until it's too late, until it's urgent, right? Until the market is demanding, or your competitors are also already doing that thing. And now it's critical. And so everyone, it's all hands on deck, and you've got to get the innovation thing done, or you're gonna, start drifting behind. If instead, again, to use the app on your iPhone analogy, if instead you think of little tiny things that you could do next week by yourself for your customers without a $12 million investment, that's how innovation comes. You start doing little things. A person on your team tried an experiment and the customers really loved it. So now
Mhm.
5 people try that same thing, and those customers love it too. So now 20 people try it, and then 50 people try it, and suddenly you're just doing the new thing. You didn't have a big prioritization exercise.
Yeah. Do you do that? Do you like I'm trying to figure out, because you're so far ahead of so many of us, right? And so, you're talking about a lot of these things that it's like, try this on your phone, try a new app and test things out. How challenging is it to continuously do this as Dan? Like how are you going about, sort of prodding and pushing and exploring your boundaries with regards to tech advancement right now?
First, you get better at it as you do it more often, right? So
Mm. Mhm.
ultimately, you learn to just make it part of your weekly ritual, right? Like, I'm gonna spend at least a little bit of time when I'm wrapping up on Friday, like reading some blog posts on a new tool that I haven't ever used before, or
Mhm.
scanning my LinkedIn for something that looks interesting that I want to click the link of and read about a little bit more. YouTube, or asking my new AI assistant,
Yeah.
what's one thing I should try next week? We'll talk about that.
Ooh. Ooh, why don't I do that more?
Right?
Yeah, you are making me think of a great question that I have to write it down right now, or else I'm gonna forget, but I wanna
That's a good
ask you
point.
yes, I wanna ask you at the end of this, but I don't
Okay.
wanna get us pulled off track, because I do wanna talk about the situation with association leaders right now. You can't miss the headlines. You can't miss what's happening in our country right now. There is a lot, happening at the federal level, that for association leaders in particular, uh, they're saying, if you're the leader of a trade association, you're paying close attention to what's happening with tariffs. If you are the leader of any association, you're wondering what's happening with your grant funding. So lots and lots of maybe the world that we live in always has changed, but like lots of change, right? And so, but we all still have to lead these organizations and figure out, how are we keeping up with, AI advancements? And for the association leaders that are listening out there, that are saying, I know I need to pay attention to this, but I also have all of these other things. How should they sort of frame this
Right.
and think about it? What's the mindset there, as far as, leading their associations in this sort of time frame, thinking about AI? Where do they put it?
Yeah. So, I'll sort of talk about the change in the world and politics and economics and all the other, macro things that that are affecting us. And all the changes in AI and other technology, just wait for the robots. They're coming soon.
I know.
Right? All of those changes are speeding up in the world, right?
Mhm.
It's easier and easier to make a new startup that does something that's magical, that changes the way we work. It's easier than ever in history to do that. It's also easier than ever in history to do something economically or globally that changes the way we do stuff, right?
Mhm.
The changes in the world are just speeding up. And so most organizations aren't thinking about like building a muscle that helps them react to change more rapidly, right? That's more important than anything else your organization is doing. And as a person, or if you have children in college, right, like I do right now, it's more the most important skill for them is reacting to the variables that they don't control, right?
Mhm.
Figuring out how to change the way you do stuff in the world in reaction to the environment around you. Like that's the most important skill for people and organizations.
Wow. We have to get better at adapting. We have to get better at learning how to handle change.
Right, right, right.
Um, with that, some leaders are hesitant to adopt new technologies due to budget constraints,
Mhm,
or internal resistance, because
mhm,
as we know, or maybe not, but for a lot of associations, staff for associations, for a lot of them,
mhm,
will be there for years and years and years. There's a lot of
mhm.
stability in a job that
Right.
when you go into working for an association. So
Mhm.
some of the barriers might be pushed back to embracing some new technology. What is your advice for some of these association executives that are wanting to maybe approach, adopting new technology, exploring AI, but they're dealing with budget constraints or pushback internally?
Right, right. So first, I think there are most of the AI tools right now, at least, have a free version that's really, really helpful. Right. So there's almost not a budgetary reason to not start dabbling a little bit with AI.
Hmm.
Maybe there are some confusion issues and maybe there are some privacy issues, but there really aren't a budget issues for using like the free version of ChatGPT or some of the others. Um, the second thing is when there's pushback, when like you don't have time for this change right now, it's usually probably because you're not using this new thing to create more time in your day, right? If you start using AI to create more time in the day, then you're going to want to use more and more and more of it because you get to use it to create more time in your day. That's a hard thing to figure out, but most people on most knowledge worker teams are spending most of their team communicating with others, right? They're spending maybe 68% of their time in meetings, emails, and chat. That's from a study from Microsoft. There's another one that said 64%. But mostly
Wow.
2/3 of your time is spent talking to people. And so if you can use AI to make talking to people a little bit more efficient, right, it'll create extra time in your week that just falls out of the sky. And that's magically empowering. You could do all kinds of new stuff with that time.
I love that. I have to admit, I don't know. I don't even want to think about how I would be doing the work that I'm doing now without using tools like ChatGPT. It has become such an important part of, what I do day to day. And it has bought me back a lot of time
Right.
and allows me, I think, to do a much better job at the work that I do because I have more time to prepare. I use that time,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Right. Right.
so I just wanted to say really quickly because for those people who watch live, they're able to comment and everything like that. There's this really lovely thing that came in from Sherry Jacobs, who I just really admire, and she's a great voice in the industry. And she wrote, "Dan is one of the very best keynote speakers and experts on this topic. I'm so excited to see him being interviewed by you, KiKi L'Italien." And I'm like, me too, Sherry. I'm really thankful, Dan, that you're here because you're taking a lot of the knowledge that you have and sharing it on different stages What are some of the most popular questions that you get when you like, because I know how this goes. You're the keynote speaker, you get, and the line comes up and they have all of the questions, or maybe you do a Q&A, I'm not sure,
Yep.
what are the most popular questions that you're getting these days?
I think the first question usually, or the most common question, always has something to do with privacy. Like, I
Oh
want
yeah.
to use
Oh
AI,
yes.
right? I
Yes.
want to use AI, but I'm afraid it's going to like take all of my information and like put it into the training data. First of all, you probably want some of it in the training data because people are Googling your company and you want
Hmm.
them to find it.
Yeah.
So that first thing is you should let it suck some of your information into the training data, because really AI is just the new search engine. And so,
Hmm.
letting AI take some of your information is kind of like writing a blog post,
Yeah.
or, you know, posting something on LinkedIn. It's the new way that the internet learns about you. The second thing is uh, your email already lets you take a massively private amount of stuff and put it in an attachment and email anyone in the world.
Hmm. Hmm.
Somehow you survive that, right?
Yeah.
Somehow you're not just blasting out all of your proprietary secrets to everyone in your contact list,
Yeah.
because you think critically about what stuff you should send out and what stuff you shouldn't. If all you do is that,
Yeah.
you'll be fine, right? Just don't put a bunch of super proprietary stuff in your AI
Yeah.
questions, and then you'll be fine. Use the same mindset that you use when you're interacting with email.
It's really great advice. I also think that as you were speaking about the impact on search, and like, because it is anybody who's followed SEO, like, look, all you have to do, you don't even have to follow SEO. You can just go to Google and then try to look something up and see what the results are that come up. And it's the AI response to that. So what are you feeding these things? The other thing is like you had me thinking, yeah, you really want your marketers to be using it, right? All of that marketing copy that says who you are and what you do and all of that kind of thing is sort of feeding that. So, and not sort of, it is. So
Yeah, right.
really great way to think about this. I was looking at the fact that and talked about it earlier, that every single day there's some new headline about AI and AI changes, and trying to track on that, not going to the robots yet, but trying to track on how AI itself is evolving so quickly. What advice would you give to association executives who are probably being pitched all kinds of products that are these AI, magic solutions?
Right,
And
right.
it's very hard to vet, what should I pay attention to? Where should I invest? What do I need to do? You don't want them to chase every shiny new object that's out there.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I think, first of all, every single software developer is building AI into whatever products they're making. So um, don't vet tools because they're new AI tools. Vet tools because they're useful tools and you need them to run your business, right? If
Mhm.
you're using, Salesforce or HubSpot as your, sales interaction, they're going to have AI things in there, but decide to use HubSpot or Salesforce because you like HubSpot or Salesforce, not because of some new AI flashy, shiny object. Um, Second, as you're trying to keep up with what's going on in your industry, what new AI things might help you, ask AI what it thinks. Go there I ask AI things every day, but maybe you
Mhm.
don't need to do it that much right now because you're not an AI speaker. But maybe every 2 weeks or once a month, go to AI and say, what new AI things should I look at to prosper in my industry, and say what your industry is. And it will say, these are 5 things that you should look at right now because people are already
Mm.
starting to use them and they're showing ROI. So no one knows how to use AI better than AI. So just
Yeah.
ask it.
What trends are you tracking right now that you think association leaders can't afford to ignore, and looking in the, not talking about robots yet, we're talking about in the next like 12 to 18 months.
Right. Yeah, I think so. Fundamentally, when we all in the world say AI right now, we usually mean language models,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Technology, things that understand words and communication really, really well. So as you go into the next 12 to 18 months, anytime you're using language, think about how AI might help you do this a little faster. If you're making a proposal document, get a draft from ChatGPT before you start. Or if you wrote it already, put it into ChatGPT and say, can you make this more concise and clear? Right?
Yeah.
If you're writing a document completely from scratch by yourself without AI, you are going to you are going to start falling behind your competitors that are writing these docs way faster than you.
Yeah. You were right. Like generative AI, the large language models, this is definitely sort of the popular topic of the day. It's what a lot of people, when they're talking about AI, it's what they're thinking about. But also garnering a lot more attention, and with good reason, the agentic AI, and talking about like what we can have them doing. So, what are maybe some applications that I might think about for using that? Do you have suggestions?
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. So first, for any listeners that don't really understand what agentic means yet, agents are just little tiny pieces of software that do something for you. Like, for instance, I need to fly to Orlando, Florida, and I want a flight. I just go book the flight. I don't care which one. I just need to get to Florida by Tuesday. An agent could be created that does that for you. And little by little, we'll have an agent app store where we go to some app store and we look at all the most popular agents and we start using some of those agents because other people started using them and it seems like they're useful. That will happen. Agents are just the new apps in an AI age. The second thing I would say is when AI makes decisions for you, you might not like the decisions sometimes.
True. This is true.
Right?
Yes.
You have an immense amount of context in your head that AI doesn't know. Right? You maybe have 15 years in your industry. You heard this chat podcast today that AI doesn't know anything about yet. All of these things influence the way you solve problems, the way you make decisions, and the things you imagine about the future. And AI can't know those things. It can't solve new problems. It can't make decisions for you. It can't imagine new stuff about the future that you like. And so as you're starting to think about agents, don't let it make your decisions for you. Get the information, use it to like search for all the possible flights and give me a list of the top 5 flights. And then you pick the one that you like the best, right? Search, use an agent that like pulls all the new blog posts from your industry into a digest. And then you decide which ones on that digest to read. Like that's the kind of cautionary tale that I would say for people starting to use agents. Just don't let it make your decisions for you because you just won't like them sometimes.
What is the vision of our sort of ideal workplace future that gets you the most excited about the application of AI right now? Like when we're talking about what's possible, what's the thing that makes you say, I'm really glad I'm doing what I'm doing today because I know that if this organization uses AI and applies this, this is what can happen?
Right. I think that I'm excited about a future where 2 things become true. First, we shrink our meeting workload from maybe 30 hours a week to 5. 1 hour of meetings a day should be achievable with AI helping you. Second, right now we mostly converse in English in the global economy. And there's 6.6 billion people that don't speak English. Another billion people speak it, but it's not their most comfortable language. And seamless translation is really, really close. Like we're already, people in my audiences all the time sit there with a translator, and I'm speaking English and they just instantly translate into Portuguese or whatever they speak. We're about to live in a world where we don't all need to speak the same language to collaborate and be on teams together and serve them as customers. That's going to make the world much, much bigger than it is right now. That really, really makes me excited.
So what's one question that you wish more people were asking, but they're not?
Wow, that's a really great question. I think what
Yay!
I yeah. What I think I wish people would think about more is that people are usually grounded in the problems. Like they find the
Mhm.
problems that exist and then they want to like fix that problem. Like, what about AI and its cost? What about AI and its privacy? What about AI and its resource consumption? Like all of those things are problems that have solutions and that we can talk about. But if there weren't any problems,
Mhm.
like if you could just do whatever you wanted, what would that future look like? And that's something that I don't get to talk about, that like, what if all these problems go away and we just have an AI assistant and it's just helping us
Mm.
do all our things with us as a partner? And that's a really exciting, future. Like I'm already, I'm recording notes, with an AI note taker in most of my meetings. I'm talking to my AI assistant, asking it questions all the time. You know, over time, in another 18 months or 2 years, I could imagine an AI assistant like going to some of my meetings for me, right?
Right.
Or doing a side project that I don't have time to finish right now. And I still want to solve problems, make decisions, imagine the future, right? I don't want my AI assistant doing those things, but it should be able to do all of the like re-communication, like the ideas that I've already explained 4, 5, 6 times already. Like my AI assistant should be able to like re-communicate those to some of my collaborators. It should be able to help me book my flights and figure out where I want to go on vacation next, and what's the customer market that I'm not tapping into that's closest. Like all of those things are really, really exciting, and I think that's a really exciting future that I wish I could talk about more.
For you, what's your favorite use right now, that is like a regular use of using AI? And I'm probably generative AI is what I'm focused on.
Yeah, so 100% every single day about something I'm writing, I go into ChatGPT and say, can you make this more concise and more clear?
Mm.
Um, some email I rambled on a little bit in the middle, or some proposal, or the speech for my keynote. Like I'm constantly asking AI if you could take this thing I wrote already and just make it a little bit better. It's like
Mhm.
Grammarly on steroids, right? It's like,
Yeah.
can you make it more persuasive? Can you make it more concise? Can you make it more clear? And but keep my voice and all the things that I'm trying to say in this message or this document. I use that so often.
Yeah. Actually, I was about to ask you the last question, and now I thought of one, and that is, I came across something the other day that, I'd filled out a lot of information, and I do use ChatGPT. It's kind of, or Claude. I use Claude a lot too. I usually use both, but and I know there are others, but those are my faves.
Those are great.
But I was going through and I kind of use it like a word calculator where it's like I want it to, as you were talking about, like I want it to sort of organize my thoughts a little bit more clearly. And it's not where it's like a copy and paste thing, but it's something where I do use it as a tool. And I think it's really smart to do that because it helps me to get my thoughts in order, to make sure it flows well or makes sense. And I'll ask it to improve, like, tell me how I
Mhm.
can improve this. And I came across something where you were supposed to submit, and it's a form, it's an application,
Mhm.
and at the end of it, it says, we don't accept anything that has used any. generative AI tools. And of course, this is after I've already gone through and I've been like, okay, how can I organize my thoughts? And I got to thinking about it. And I thought, yeah, I don't know that I agree with that, because I understand if somebody just takes it sort of wholesale and copies and pastes whatever. But if you've spent a lot of time working back and forth with a tool like that, why wouldn't you? I feel like it's such a weird thing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I agree that if a person doesn't have any of their own thoughts and they're
Right.
using ChatGPT to give them thoughts, and like that's immoral or ethically compromised a little bit. But as a polishing tool,
Right.
I think the world will start to flip on that notion. So imagine there's a person on your team, and they're sending emails to your customers, and they keep messing up there and there and there and your
Mhm.
and your and your, and they're ignoring the spell check underline. They keep writing these emails, and they have the little red or green squiggly lines, and they keep ignoring them and sending out these messages with all these typos. You would probably consider putting that person on a performance plan, right?
Mhm.
They're ignoring the tool that is there to help you. And that's negligent.
Mhm.
We will get to the point where you say, didn't you put this in ChatGPT first? Why didn't you do that? This is a mess. You will
Mhm.
start to depend on AI as a polishing tool so much that you'll start to feel like if they're not using it, they're doing something wrong.
I asked you earlier about what's your favorite way that you use this. And of course we love to talk about efficiency and productivity and how all of this stuff. But as you probably have observed, there are also ways to waste our time, on some of these tools. Maybe it's not wasting, we're learning, right?
Sure.
But do you have a guilty pleasure way
Mm.
of using some generative AI tools? Because I know I do. And if you tell me yours, I will tell you mine. But what is your guilty pleasure way of, and I say guilty just with this idea of, you can't like claim that it's necessarily for work or productivity. Do you have any?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just last week, I don't know if you saw on LinkedIn, but everybody was creating action figures of themselves, right? So you
Yes.
you you
Yes.
upload a photo of yourself, and then you describe like some things, and it will make an action figure
I created
of
mine.
you. I don't need a picture of an action figure of me, but it was kind of fun. And every time one of those comes out, where people are like, "Hey, here's a way to make a new fun cool picture of you," I'll spend probably way more time than I should playing around with stuff like that. I'll share my action photo or my action figure photo with you if you want to share with your listeners. But that's my most fun thing. I get sucked into those so easily.
I love stuff like that too, Dan. I'm going to tell you that, sometimes I take like different approaches to like, if I wanted to explore a different path in life or go down, and you can work with these tools to develop any kind of planning, any kind of idea that you've got. And I will really take this to extreme. Like, if I wanted to just stop everything and everything that I did with associations, just stop tomorrow. Not that I want to do this. Nobody get the idea. I don't. But it's like, it's just a thought exercise. And I really enjoy just seeing where that can take me. But I probably spend a weird amount of time doing that. But,
Right.
I really, really thank you for your time. I know that there are other ways, other paths that we could take on talking about AI. So I would love to reach out to you again in the future, maybe when your book comes out, so we can talk about that. And so I always like to try to put people on the spot right when I have them, where it's like, so would you be open to that, Dan? Would you like to come back on the show and maybe talk with me when the book comes out?
100%. Yeah, this was really fun. It was a pleasure talking, and I would love to have more conversations in the future. AI and the world is changing so fast. We'll have a bunch of new stuff to talk about, even if we only do this 6 months from now. So,
Oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.